Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Playtech TV. Today we're going to look at a pre-built system that you can buy from Playtech. This is the Playtech Hunter mini gaming PC. Now this little guy punches well above its weight, so we're going to be doing a full review on it and looking at what it does in terms of benchmarks and temperatures and all the components you get with it. So let's get into it. So before we get into the benchmarks, let's talk about the specs a little bit. Now there's a lot of customization with it. You can have different CPUs, GPUs, memory sizes, storage sizes, all of that is all customizable when you go to buy the Playtech Hunter. However, I'm just going to talk about this one because this is the one I reviewed. So we'll do it in reverse order, just as a bit of fun and something different. So we'll talk about the case first. So it's a Thermaltake Core V1. Has a big 200mm fan in the front with blue LEDs and a lot of ventilations around the side and the back. So that should hopefully keep the temperatures down. Now, moving on to the power supply. It'll come with a 600 watt platinum grade power supply. So platinum grade, really efficient, going to deliver nice clean power to your components. SSD, so it's coming with a 120 gigabyte Kingston SSD now SSD. So that's really good. GPU, now this is the important part. Gigabyte WindForce GTX 760 in this particular one, so that has 2 gigabytes of video memory at 6000 megahertz, has a base clock of 1085 megahertz on the GPU core and a boost of 1150 megahertz. Now, memory, coming in with 16 gigabytes of Kingston HyperX memory, that's at 1600 megahertz. CPU is an Intel i5-4460. This is a quad-core CPU with a 3.2 gigahertz base clock and it'll turbo all the way up to 3.4 gigahertz. Motherboard is a Gigabyte Z97N Wi-Fi, and that's going to round out the specs. Let's get into the benchmarks. So up first is Intel Extreme Tuning Utility, the benchmark within that software, and it scored 755 marks, which is a pretty decent effort. Now into Unigine Valley. This is on the Extreme HD preset, 1080p. It scored an average of 40 frames per second, which is pretty good once again. Now into Unigine Heaven. This is everything maxed out 1080p. It scored DirectX 11. It scored 31.2 frames per second average, which once again is a pretty good effort. Now to some games. Tomb Raider. This is everything maxed out 1080p without VSync. It scored an average of 48.3 frames per second. And lastly, Bioshock Infinite. This is on user setting 2. It scored 70.2 frames per second average. So what do these benchmarks tell us? Basically that if you don't mind just gaming at over 30 frames per second, then you should be able to run most games maxed out. Most games. But if you want to be gaming at above 60 frames per second to be more in line with your 60 Hz monitor, then you're probably going to be needing to drop the filters down. You can probably leave the graphics on high, but you're going to need to drop the filters down to maybe ×2 or turn them off completely, and that should give you a good gaming experience at above 60 frames per second. But it always depends on the game. I mean, Bioshock, that was playing at maxed out and it still averaged above 60 frames per second. So it's just going to be dependent on the game, so you might have to play around with it a little bit. But for the most part, it's a really good performance. You're going to be able to run most games on high settings at 1080p without any worries at all. A big problem with mini gaming PCs is that sometimes the ventilation isn't there and the components can run really, really hot. So as we discussed earlier, this one has a 200mm fan in the front and it's got plenty of ventilation on the side, especially on the side with the graphics card, which can pretty much mean it's taking air straight outside the case in, nice cold air. And this good ventilation with the case really shows in the temperature testing. So in Intel Extreme Tuning Utility, I ran a stress test on the CPU for an hour, and the highest temperature it went up to was 65 degrees Celsius. And that's on the stock Intel cooler, so really, really good temperatures there. I also ran Unigine Valley, that was on the Extreme HD preset, for an hour, And the GPU, the GTX 760 WindForce, only went up to a maximum of 67 degrees Celsius. So you're not going to be having any problems with thermal throttling with a Playtech Hunter. It's really good ventilation on both the CPU and the GPU, and you shouldn't be having any troubles with temperatures with this mini gaming PC. In conclusion, this is a really great mini gaming PC. It looks really good, and it performed really well. So as I said earlier, you might need to drop some of the filters off if you want a game at above 60 frames a second in some games. But aside from that, for 1080p gaming, it's going to do you really well. And thermal-wise, it doesn't suffer from any thermal throttling like other mini gaming PCs do. And that's also really nice to see, because it seems to be a constant problem that a lot of mini gaming PCs face these days. Now, this is fully customizable. As I said before, you can run different CPUs in it. You can run a Pentium G3258 if you want. You can run different memory. You can run 8 gigs or 16 gigs. You can run different SSD sizes, a different GPU. You can run a 780 Ti in this if you really wanted to. So there's all that customizability. And of course, it's built in-house at Playtech, so you have that quality assured also that it's being built to a very high standard. And all of that will be linked down in the description below, so you can check out all the different customizations you can make and the different pricing that goes with it. Now, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the videos. Please subscribe, leave a like if you liked the video, and I'll see you guys next time on Playtech TV.